How can a country smaller than New York City control global trade worth trillions? How can a single island with no oil, no farmland, no minerals become one of the richest nations on Earth? This place is a paradox. It is strict, yet free. It is tiny, yet powerful. It is young, yet ancient in spirit. Here, chewing gum is banned, but billion-dollar tech startups thrive. Here, skyscrapers rise from swamps, while jungle still breathes at the edges. This nation has more trees than people, yet some of the busiest air routes on Earth. Its passport is the world's strongest, granting access to 193 countries. Every ship that passes, every deal that's signed, every law that's enforced carries global consequences. The stakes are enormous. If this city falters, trade routes collapse, economies tremble, and balance shifts. So what makes this place so strategic, so untouchable, so admired? The answer begins with its geography, and the name of this city-state is Singapore. Singapore is small, just 728 square kilometers, smaller than Los Angeles, smaller than London, a single city, yet a sovereign nation. It sits at the southern tip of the Malay Peninsula, a crossroads between the Indian Ocean and the Pacific, a gateway between East and West. The Strait of Malacca lies beside it, one of the busiest shipping lanes on Earth. Every year, more than 100,000 ships pass through. Tankers, cargo vessels, container giants. Together, they carry 1/5 of the world's traded goods. A fifth of everything you buy, wear, or eat may have passed this narrow channel. Oil from the Middle East, electronics from China, grain from Australia, all flowing through waters guarded by this tiny island. The Strait of Malacca is so narrow, at its tightest point it is only 2.7 kilometers wide. Singapore's airport handles more passengers each year than its entire population, 10 times over. And yet, Singapore has no oil of its own, no farmland to feed its people, no minerals to mine. It is a nation built on scarcity. Imagine a country with no farmland, yet it feeds millions daily. Imagine a nation with no water sources, yet it sells water to neighbors. This is the paradox of Singapore. Geography gave it a blessing and a curse, a blessing of location, a curse of dependence. Do you think geography matters more than natural resources in building power? But geography alone cannot explain Singapore's rise. Many nations sit on trade routes, few become global powers. The secret lies in how Singapore governs itself, and that story begins with power, discipline, and vision. Power in Singapore is not chaotic. It is precise, deliberate, and deeply rooted in discipline. The nation is a parliamentary democracy. But unlike many democracies, it is tightly controlled. The ruling party has dominated since independence, and for decades, one man's vision shaped its destiny. That man was Lee Kuan Yew, Singapore's founding prime minister, a leader who believed survival required order, not chaos. He built a system where corruption was crushed, where meritocracy ruled, where efficiency was sacred. Singapore is one of the strictest societies on Earth, yet one of the most innovative. Here, laws are not suggestions, they are absolute. Chewing gum is banned, littering can cost you hundreds of dollars, drug trafficking carries the death penalty, even jaywalking is punished. To outsiders, this feels extreme. But to Singaporeans, it feels safe. Crime rates are among the lowest in the world. Children walk home at night without fear. Wallets lost on trains are often returned. In Singapore, you can leave your laptop in a cafe and return hours later to find it untouched. This is not just law enforcement, it is culture, engineered by governance. The government believes freedom without order is fragile, so it trades certain liberties for collective security. Would you trade some personal freedoms for absolute safety? But governance here is not only about rules, it is also about strategy. Singapore positions itself as neutral ground. It balances East and West. It welcomes American warships while trading with China. It hosts global corporations while staying politically independent. This balancing act is delicate. One wrong move could alienate allies. One misstep could collapse trust. Yet Singapore has managed it for decades. Singapore spends more on defense per capita than almost any other Asian nation. Its military can mobilize 300,000 troops in days despite its tiny size. The government also invests heavily in its people. Education is rigorous, public housing is universal, healthcare is efficient. Every citizen feels the state's presence in daily life. But this presence is not always gentle. Critics argue that dissent is silenced, that opposition is weak, that media is tightly controlled. Singapore calls it stability. Others call it authoritarianism. And yet, the results are undeniable. From a swampy island with no resources to a global hub of finance, trade, and innovation, this transformation was not luck. It was governance, designed with precision. Still, one question lingers. Why did Singapore choose this path? Why such strictness, such discipline, such control? To answer that, we must go back in time, back to a moment of crisis, back to the day Singapore was forced into independence. Before the skyscrapers, before the neon skyline, before the global banks, Singapore was a fishing village, a small settlement at the mouth of a river. Traders stopped here for water, food, and shelter. It was not yet a nation, it was a crossroads. In 1819, the British arrived. Sir Stamford Raffles saw potential. He declared Singapore a free port. No tariffs, no restrictions, open to all. Ships came, merchants followed. The island became a trading post of empire. But empire brought vulnerability. During World War II, the Japanese invaded. The fortress of Singapore fell in days. The British surrendered. The people suffered under occupation. Food was scarce. Fear was constant. The myth of British invincibility was shattered. When the war ended, Singapore returned to British rule. But the world had changed. Colonialism was dying. Nationalism was rising. Singaporeans wanted self-determination. In 1963, Singapore joined Malaysia. It seemed like survival. A small island needed a larger partner. But the union was uneasy. Ethnic tensions grew. Political clashes erupted. Riots shook the streets. Then came the shock. In 1965, Malaysia expelled Singapore. It was not independence by choice. It was rejection. A nation born not from victory, but from exile. On television, Prime Minister Lee Kuan Yew wept. His voice broke as he said, "We are on our own now." The image burned into history. A leader crying not from weakness, but from the weight of survival. Most nations fight for independence. Singapore was forced into it. The challenges were immense. No army, no resources, no water supply of its own. Unemployment was high. Housing was scarce. The future looked impossible. Imagine being told your country cannot survive, and then proving the world wrong. Singapore had two choices: collapse or reinvent itself. It chose reinvention. It chose discipline, strategy, and relentless ambition. At independence, Singapore's GDP per capita was just $500, lower than Ghana's. The island had to import even its drinking water from Malaysia under a 99-year treaty. Do you think rejection can sometimes be the greatest opportunity? From this fragile beginning, Singapore began to build. It built homes for its people. It built schools for its children. It built industries where none existed. And it built trust in a government that promised survival. But survival was not enough. Singapore wanted prosperity. It wanted to be more than a struggling island. It wanted to be a global hub. The question was, how? How does a nation with nothing create everything? The answer lies in its economic miracle, a transformation so rapid, the world called it the Singapore model. Singapore had no oil, no farmland, no gold, no diamonds, nothing the world usually values. So it turned its weakness into strength. It opened its doors, it welcomed trade. It became the middleman of the world. The port of Singapore grew into one of the busiest on Earth. Today, it is second only to Shanghai. Every day, thousands of containers arrive: electronics, cars, textiles, food. Goods are unloaded, sorted, and shipped again. Efficiency is legendary. A container can move from ship to truck in minutes, but ports alone were not enough. Singapore needed capital. It needed trust. So it built a financial system with zero tolerance for corruption. Banks came. Investors followed. Soon, Singapore became Asia's financial hub. A nation with no natural resources became a safe haven for global wealth. Foreign companies found stability here. Low taxes, skilled workers, world-class infrastructure. From oil giants to tech startups, they all came. Singapore even sells sand and water, resources it doesn't naturally have. It imports sand to expand its land. It imports water from Malaysia, then resells it purified. The government also invested in people. Education was rigorous. English became the working language. This gave Singaporeans access to global markets. It also made the city a bridge between East and West. By the 1990s, Singapore was no longer just a port. It was a hub for aviation, finance, and technology. Changi Airport became a global gateway. The skyline filled with banks and multinational headquarters. Changi Airport was ranked the world's best for many years, though in 2025, Istanbul Airport took the top spot. Singapore's sovereign wealth funds control over $1 trillion in assets. Today, Singapore ranks among the richest nations per capita. Its GDP per person rivals Switzerland and Norway, yet it has no oil wells, no farmland, no mines. Would you trust your country's economy to be this open to the world? The government calls this the Singapore model, a mix of free trade, strict governance, and relentless innovation. It is studied by economists, admired by leaders, and envied by rivals. But prosperity comes with pressure. The cost of living is high. Inequality is rising. Foreign workers fill the gaps in labor, and the city's pace is relentless. Behind the skyscrapers and wealth lies a human story. A story of immigration, diversity, and daily life. Because Singapore is not just an economy. It is a society, one shaped by rules, culture, and people. Singapore is not just a city. It is a mosaic of people. A nation of 5.9 million, where nearly 40% are foreign-born. The majority are Chinese, but Malays, Indians, and Eurasians form vital threads. Add to this a constant flow of expats, workers, and students. The result is a society unlike any other in Asia. Walk through a single street and you hear 4 languages: English, Mandarin, Malay, Tamil, all official, all equal in law. This is not an accident, it is policy. The government enforces ethnic quotas in public housing. No neighborhood can be dominated by one group. This prevents segregation. It forces integration. It makes diversity a daily reality. Singapore is one of the most expensive cities in the world, yet one of the safest. Housing is costly, but 80% of citizens live in government-built apartments. Healthcare is efficient, but not free. Education is world-class, but highly competitive. The system is demanding, but it delivers results. Life here is fast. Work hours are long. Expectations are high. But the city is clean, efficient, and safe. Children walk home at night. Elderly sit in parks without fear. In Singapore, even chewing gum is controlled, but Wi-Fi is everywhere. Foreign workers form the backbone of construction, cleaning, and domestic work. They live in dormitories, often far from the city center. Their presence is essential, but also controversial. Some locals worry about overcrowding, others see them as vital to survival. Nearly 1 in 3 workers in Singapore is a foreigner. The city's birth rate is among the lowest in the world, forcing reliance on immigration. Would you live in a place where rules shape harmony, even if it meant less personal freedom? Despite the rules, Singaporeans embrace joy in food, festivals, and family. They celebrate Chinese New Year with lanterns, Hari Raya with feasts, Deepavali with lights, Christmas with shopping and music. Every culture leaves its mark. This coexistence is fragile yet remarkable. It is engineered by policy, but lived by people. It is proof that diversity can be managed, not feared. Still, life here is not only about rules and work. It is also about experience. because beyond the strictness lies a city of wonder, a place where culture, travel, and imagination collide. Singapore is more than strategy. It is also spectacle. A city designed to impress and to inspire. The skyline is iconic. Marina Bay Sands rises like a ship in the sky. Gardens by the bay glows with futuristic trees of steel and light. Sentosa Island offers beaches, theme parks, and luxury resorts. Every corner feels engineered for wonder. But the true heart of Singapore is not in its skyscrapers. It is in its food. Hawker centers, open-air food courts, are the nation's soul. Here, you find 3 meals that carry centuries of history: Hainanese chicken rice, laksa noodles, Malay satay, Indian roti prata. Each dish tells a story of migration, adaptation, and survival. In Singapore, you can dine in a luxury mall or eat a Michelin-starred meal for the price of a coffee. Food is more than sustenance. It is identity. It is one. It is the one thing every Singaporean agrees on. Where else can you eat Indian curry, Malay satay, and Chinese noodles, all in one meal? Festivals bring this diversity to life. Chinese New Year fills the streets with red lanterns. Deepavali lights up Little India with colors and candles. Hari Raya brings families together in feasts and prayers. National Day unites everyone under fireworks and song. Singapore's hawker culture is so unique, UNESCO declared it part of humanity's intangible heritage. The city has more than 100 rooftop bars, despite being smaller than many global airports. Tourists come for the spectacle, but they leave with something deeper, a sense that this city is not just modern, it is layered. It is ancient traditions wrapped in futuristic design. It is East and West, past and future, all in one. If you could try one Singaporean dish right now, what would it be? Yet beyond the food, beyond the festivals, beyond the lights, Singapore raises a bigger question. What does this city-state teach us about the future of nations? What lessons can the world learn from its paradoxes? To answer, we must step back. We must reflect on what Singapore truly represents. Singapore is proof that size does not define power. It is smaller than many cities, yet stronger than many nations. It shows that strategy can outweigh resources, that discipline can outweigh chance, that vision can outweigh history. This city-state is a paradox. It is rigid, yet free. It is small, yet global. It is strict, yet innovative. It is fragile, yet unshakable. Its story is not just about trade or wealth, it is about survival against the odds. It is about turning rejection into opportunity. It is about building harmony in diversity. Despite its size, Singapore's Navy is one of Southeast Asia's most advanced. The nation's passport is ranked the world's most powerful, tied with Japan. Do you think other small nations can follow Singapore's path? Or is this miracle unique? The world is changing. New city-states are rising. New hubs are competing. But Singapore remains a model, a warning, and an inspiration. If this tiny island can shape the world, what could others achieve? And that leads to the next question. If Singapore is the world's most strategic city-state, what happens when another tiny nation tries to challenge it? The answer lies in our next story.